This is an explanation movie on how to use the nobism app to collect data for research. When you start the app, you first get this screen where there's asked if you have an OpenHumans account. If so, press OK and you can log in, or we just press cancel for this moment. In this opening screen you can set your language. So there are 6 languages at the moment. As you can see, you can scroll it down. I'll keep it in English for the moment. And we go on. And then I press continue at the bottom. So now we're in the application. And when you start the application, it's basically empty with a welcome text and a little explanation on how everything works. This is the button part. So here on top there's a big plus and you can load buttons. This is the history part. It's all empty still. A timeline and a profile page. So we go back to the buttons, and to use the app we need to set up our own buttons. And a button is basically a symptom or treatment. So we press the plus on top and we go to the library. In the library there are different kinds of subjects or groups of symptoms or treatments. Let's see, we first go to the symptoms because we all have cluster headache. So we press that one. We go to cluster headache. I'm sorry there's not a search for option in it yet, but here we have it, the cluster headache. You see under the name cluster headache that it can register intensity and time. Intensity is needed, so you always have to fill it in. Time you can switch on and off. I advise everybody to keep it on and keep track of the duration of your attack as well. So I press add. Now I'm at the screen which is basically about relations between buttons, but we're gonna skip this one for a second and I'm gonna explain it on the second button. I press save. Now we have cluster headache as button added to the application. We can press the cogwheel, it will open, and we can switch on and off the use time. We can go to the relations, we can close it again, and we can even delete it at the bottom. Oh, we can delete it at this button at the bottom. If we press the button, we get a pop-up screen. So if we had an attack, you just press it, you put an intensity, you press the time, and then there's the hour wheel and the minute wheel. I mainly use the minutes, and you put it like 29 or 30, 1 or more minutes, less or more is not very important. We press done, add, and the cluster headache is added OK. So if we now go to the history, we'll see that on Wednesday, June 26, a registration is made. If we go to the timeline, we also see a dot appear on that date and hour, representing the cluster headache attack. We now go back to the buttons and we load a button. Well, I used it, oxygen. So we go to medicine, scroll down to the oxygen, oxygen. I can set, you see that it's about liters per minute written under the oxygen. That's the value we use in this button. And quantity by default means that how many liters per minute do you normally use, and I used 15, so I just say 15 and then I say add. And now I get the relation screen again. I'm adding oxygen and I already have cluster headache. Their relation is that the oxygen is an abortive treatment for the cluster headache. But other treatments like verapamil are daily treatments. Or you have mushrooms or therapy that can be occasional treatment, or something one button can be a side effect of another symptom or treatment or triggers. So in this one we say that it's an abortive treatment, and we just save it. And now we have oxygen added as well. So if you take the oxygen, if you took the oxygen at the end of the attack, you just press the oxygen button and it says that it's added OK. We have no time registration at the oxygen, we just say that we used the oxygen. So if we now go to the history, we have an oxygen added as well to the history. So if we now go back to the buttons and we go to the library again, what we have here is a list of symptoms. And at the bottom of the list, if you cannot find the symptom you need, we just go to the bottom of every list and we just say button request and send an email to me, and I'll add it to the library. You can also go to medicines, or you can go to alternative medicines. You can add all these buttons. There are sports and activities. A nice one to use is these two buttons, asleep or awake. So if you had an attack, press the button if you were awake when it started or asleep when it started. Vitamins, mineral, homeopathic. Under tools there is a button which is called report. If you press that one, you can just add it straight to the application, and this one gives you the option to make a note. So you can make a title and a comment, and you can say add. You can move buttons by just pressing the thin lines on the corner of the button and then move the button to the top. If you want to make a registration about something that happened in the past, you just go to a new registration, you press the pencil, and then you can change the date and time of the attack. Cancel. You can also delete a registration. If you throw away a button, so I throw away the oxygen, your data is still saved. There's nothing changing about the data you've collected, and later you can always add it again. We now go to the timeline. In the timeline, profiles, In the profile page, we can set up some basic information about ourselves. So we can set up an email. So if you send an email or request a button, it will use that email to respond. You can set your gender. You can just press it and make a selection. You can set a date of birth. You can set a language or change your language in the app, a weight, a height, and diagnosis. Then there's also an option to say to which group you belong or in which group you are a member. But like some people are a member of the cluster headache community on Facebook, or they are joining the microdosing project in the Netherlands. So if you are a member of one of these, just press it, say add, and then it's saved, so we know that you're in that group, and that means we can compare results between groups and see who's performing best. Then we get to the OpenHumans part. I will make a new movie about logging into OpenHumans and using it to store your data and to share for research. I hope you enjoyed this movie. I hope it helps you to collect data.